What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Blood on the Razor Wire TV, where we bring it to you real and we bring it to you raw. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, definitely leave a comment because the comments are important and I promise to get back to you. Make sure you get notified, so hit that notification bell, become part of Blood on the Razor Wire family when you hit that notification bell every time. And make sure you share this video because somebody probably needs to hear it. You know, I've said before in videos that the image that you project is the image that you must protect. And today, we're going to have a little story time. We're going to talk about a kid that I was in USP Lee with, a kid that I had met that had just served 10 years in the ADX for murder. His name's Mark Jordan. I met Mark when he had left the ADX. I came back to my unit from the law library and someone had told me, hey, there's a new white dude upstairs. So, you know, like all prisoners in prison, when a new white dude shows up or a new black dude or a new Mexican or a new Hispanic, your people usually go to you to see who you are and what's going on. So I go up there and I look in the cell. It's about 3 or 4 cells away from mine. I look through the glass. I see this white dude on the floor scrubbing his floor. Soap everywhere. And I knock on the door. The kid looks back at me. He's got these big old eyes. So what's up? I said, what's going on, man? Introduce myself, ask him who he is and where he's from. Just kind of what we do, right? Tells me he's from Philly. Told me he just got out of the ADX for murder. And he delved right into his story about how he killed this dude in Florence. I'm like, all right. And I'm thinking in my mind, like, this dude's probably a dangerous dude right here. You could just see it. You could feel it. You could see it in his eyes. And he was burned out. Burned out means, man, that prison has destroyed you mentally and emotionally, man. That you're just, sometimes you're just lost, man. You're just somewhere else. Sometimes you're with us. Sometimes you're not. And I could tell that this kid was kind of burned out immediately. But we ended up getting close, me and Mark. We were kicking it. He was from the East Coast. I'm from the East Coast. And, you know, of course, I want to know about the ADX, and I asked him about the Unabomber. I asked him about all kinds of, you know, famous people that were over there and all of that. And he tells me all these stories. And, you know, what comes across is that he's saying, look, man, I'm a tough guy. But really, he wasn't. And I had found that out later on down the road. You know, a scared person is the most dangerous person in prison. Don't let anybody tell you anything different. A scared person will kill you. A scared person won't think, they'll just do something and then regret it later on. So Mark was 18 years old, did a bunch of bank robberies. He ended up with 26 years. 25 or 26 years at the age of 18. He probably did about 22 years. He would have got out of prison when he was 40. Think about that. If you're watching this video and you're 18 years old, think about that. You're going to get out when you're 40. Kind of sucks, right? But it ain't the worst. I mean, it could be worse than that. At 40, you still get out of prison and still have a life. But at the age of 79, 80, you probably can't have a life. And that's when Mark's going to get out of prison now. He's going to get out of prison when he's about 79 probably. Maybe a little bit younger, maybe 75. I get to know more about Mark. I get to learn about the ADX. And really, man, he talks himself up. We talk about drugs a little bit and him wanting to hustle and things like, I really don't want to get involved. I had some issues before. And at the time, I didn't know that Mark was a dope fiend when he was in the street. I didn't know that his addiction resulted in him robbing banks and ended up with, 25, 26 years. And like I said, man, the image you project is the image you have to protect. So Mark gave off this persona that he was the baddest dude in the jail. That he showed up from the ADX. He acted like he wanted to take over the white car. He wanted to be the shot caller. He was that dude that position was owed to him because of the time that he's done in the ADX and all of that. And we're going to talk about the murder in a minute. And eventually, man, Mark ended up getting a cellie that he had knew from somewhere else. The dude's name was Hippie. Within a month and a half, they find a knife in Mark's cell. Big old bone crusher, right? And that just goes towards his persona, like, yo, this is a dangerous dude. Stay away from him. And later I learned that he was just doing that because mentally and emotionally, Mark was still an 18-year-old kid. He was still the same age he was when he was arrested. And I tell people that all the time as well, that so many people in prison, man, you grow older physically, but not mentally. A lot of dudes just stay at the age they were when they were arrested. They start to look old, they get the gray in their beard, but they still act like an 18 or 19-year-old kid, and that's what was going on with Mark. Mark was still an immature young man. Highly intelligent, but perhaps a sociopath as well. Dangerous. Dangerous because he was scared, man. Mark was still scared. See, when he was in ADX, he was locked in a cell. He didn't have to deal with people. No one could get him. No one could hurt him. So like I was saying, he ends up with that cellie. They find a knife in the cell. Mark goes to the hole. He don't want to sit in the hole. He makes a deal with Hippie. He says, look, man, my sister's going to send you $1,000. You tell him that was your knife. I got nothing to do with it. Hippie don't have no money, so he takes the hit. Tells the police that was his knife. The write-up from Mark gets thrown out. Mark comes out of the hole. He's back in population. He's moving. He's doing him. And then Hippie gets out of the hole. And he ends up going to a different unit. And him and Mark have a beef. They have some kind of beef. And Hippie disrespects Mark at commissary. And I'm like, what's up, bro? Like, at that time, I was on some wild stuff, man, where I had 40 years, didn't think I was ever getting out, didn't really care. I'm like, what's up? You wanna crush this dude? He's like, I want to kill him. I'm like, I'm not killing the dude, bro. But if you want to jump on this dude and do something, then we should probably make that happen because dude just disrespected you. He's like, I'm killing him tonight. You don't need to come with me. And I'm like, all right, man. Usually if someone disrespects you in prison, man, you handle that business right away. You don't wait. So that was the first flag to me, like, I don't know what's up with Mark, man. So eventually that night, Mark doesn't go do anything to Hippie. And I'm like, yo, what's up, man? You gonna let that dude ride? He's like, man, you know what? That dude ain't even worth it, bro. I don't want to go back to the ADX. And I kind of brushed the stuff off like, maybe you don't want to go back to the ADX. But he was showing me signs that he was still 18 years old. He was still that scared kid that was in Florence. And that takes me to the story in Florence, right? Mark was getting high in prison. He's sitting at a table. There's a table. And this dude, David Stone, sitting at the table. He don't have no shirt on. He's got on a pair of shorts, got on a pair of sneakers. Mark's sitting at the table with him. A couple other dudes are around. Mark gets up with another dude. They start to walk away from the table, and all of a sudden, Stone gets stabbed. Gets hit, I think, 3 times. Jumps up off the table. He starts running. Mark's chasing him. And Stone collapses. They're yelling on the loudspeaker to stop running. And Mark stops running. He throws the knife on top of the building as if they weren't going to find it. You know, that's an 18-year-old mentality. Throw the knife on top of the building and hope they don't find it. Well, they got cameras. Of course they're going to find it. You know, I had talked to Mark. I said, man, why'd you kill that dude? Eventually, you know, when we ended up becoming close, he kind of confided in me. I guess I was the only friend that Mark ever really had. Maybe in his whole life, because I had befriended Mark. I thought Mark was in need of a friend, man. He was from the East Coast. I felt like he was going to ride, even though it turned out that he wouldn't. You know, in the persona, he killed someone. He was a good guy to have on the team, right? Like, he's a hitter. But really, he was just a scared kid. Came to prison at 18 with all that time. And I'm like, man, why'd you kill that dude? He said, man, dude told me he was going to rape me, man. He said, I wasn't trying to get raped by no booty bandit. I wasn't going to let dude rape me. I'm like, well, why would he tell you that? He's like, well, I owed him some money. I was getting high. And then it came out about his addiction and how he was getting high, how he didn't want to be around drugs in prison and stuff like that. Sometimes he fascinated with trying to sell drugs in prison to make money. And then he'd say, nah, I ain't going to do it. I don't want to do it. He always had a plan and then canceled his plan. And then eventually, you know, he had explained to me why. Because he was addicted to heroin. He didn't want to start selling it again and end up, you know, in that same position. Because heroin had already took 26 years of Mark's life. That sentence, it took his life, right? So Mark was going to get out when he was 40, but he killed David Stone because he said, man, dude was a booty bandit. But really, Mark had owed Dave. Dave was old OG. He had owed Dave some money. Dave was selling him heroin, found a young white kid that had family with money, just kept pumping him with heroin. And eventually the family got tired of sending the money. So Dave told him, hey, look, either you're going to pay or I'm banging you. And Mark let it pass, and he let it pass for a few days. He knew what day he had to pay, and he couldn't pay. He couldn't pay, and he didn't want dude to rape him. So he went out there and he put that knife in him. But before he had done that, had already went to the counselor and the case manager told him, I need to get out of here. I need to get off this mountain. And he had made statements to staff members, it's in his paperwork, where he said, hey, look, I don't want to be here. I'd rather go to the hole. Really, he was looking for a way to get out. And he couldn't get out. The cops wouldn't let him go to the hole. Kind of tried to check in a little bit, but wasn't able to check in. This is Mark. I want you guys to see Mark. Couldn't get out. So he decided, man, I'm going to stab this dude and I'm out of here. Well, guess what? Mark didn't intend to kill Stone. Killed him on accident. Sat in the hole for a couple years. He thought he was going to get away. They didn't charge him. He's probably like, all right, dude's dead. They didn't charge him. 5 years later, Mark's now across the street in the ADX, sitting in a cell all by himself, all alone. And the federal government decides to charge Mark with murder and a couple other charges. Mark goes to trial, gets sentenced to 35 more years in federal prison. 35 more years. So he came to prison at 18. 26 plus 35. So what, 61 years? He was 18 at the time. He'll be 78 or 79 years old when he gets out, right? With good time. No, he'd probably be about 70, 72 with good time, if he behaves. But I'm sure he's lost a bunch of that good time anyway. So, don't be a mark. You want to be a mark? You want to go to prison and end up spending the rest of your life in there? When you get out and you're in your 70s, what is there to look forward to? You can't never have a life, probably never have a wife, never have a career, never really have a job. You're just going to get out so you can, what? See what a real pizza tastes like? In the year 2060? See what a cheeseburger tastes like? You know how impossible it's going to be to reacclimate into society? But see, Mark's story isn't just about that. You know, Mark had went to USP Atlanta too. And there was an incident in Atlanta. Other dudes had known him. They say, hey man, you're the dude that stabbed the case manager. And I had heard that. I said, damn, you stabbed the case. He's like, yeah, man. He tried to brush off the story. He didn't want to talk about it. I'm like, well, man, what was up with that? And he tells me this story about the case manager. Because I said, why, they didn't charge you for stabbing? He's like, nah, man, I got away with that shit. I'm like, well, how did that happen? He said, well, man, you know, I was young. I told him that, you know, the case manager was, you know, raping me and trying to do all this bad shit to me. And I'm like, dude, they ain't going to believe no story like that, man. You can't just make up something like that after you stab the case manager. He's like, no, man, they believed it. He said, but what was really going on was the case manager was bringing in crack and I was smoking crack with the case manager. And look, man, the bullshit flew over my head. I wasn't believing that. Something was really going on for you to stab the case manager and them not do nothing. That sexual stuff that you said you just told him about, that shit was really happening. And that's how he got out of it. He did stab the case manager. He went crazy and stabbed him. Was he tired of being sexually abused by the case manager? I don't know. But I know that he stabbed the case manager for sure. And you know, after Mark had got caught with that knife in his cell at USP Lee, that wasn't it for Mark. Mark didn't learn his lesson. He was still trying to be that tough guy. He wanted people to think he was a gangster. He was that dude. But really, Mark wasn't that dude. Not at all. He's trying to start a poker table. He's running a poker table. He tells me what a great poker player is. He's never winning. He's losing money. His sister's sending money in. The dude was just lost, man. He was a kid mentally. Mentally and emotionally, he was a kid. Sitting in prison for the rest of his life now. He killed someone that he didn't mean to kill. He meant to stab the dude probably so that the dude didn't really rape him or do any booty bandit shit to him. That's what he meant to do. He meant just to stab him. And go to the hole, sit in the hole, get a shot for assault. Go to the hole and get transferred, get clean. He gets off the dope in the hole, sits down there for 5 or 6 months. And he goes to another prison and he starts over. He's a brand new Mark. Didn't work out that way for him. His story ended with another 35 years. 35 years in federal prison, locked in a cell. No more Christmases, no family reunions, no real barbecues, no barbecue chicken. All the small things that matter, forever gone. Mark will never experience that stuff ever again. Never. Family will probably be long gone. Parents will be gone. Maybe his sister will still be alive, the person that supports him. But I want you to learn from Mark's story. I want you to know that you don't have to be Mark. You can just be you. You can just be you and live a prosperous, happy life. Because prison is not the life that you want to live, man. It's not. Like I said, Mark didn't learn. He ended up in USP Lee with me after he gets out of the hole for that knife. Him and another dude, I think dude was originally from PA. He had a life sentence in Florida. He had 25 years in the feds. And him and Mark became cool at the poker table. And he tells Mark, man, I got life over there. I don't want to go over there. And one of their homeboys shows up. He has life too. And I forgot the dude's name. I wish I could remember it. This dude was like a mixed martial arts dude. He's a badass dude. He was doing a bunch of robberies in PA. It was a death penalty case, but he copped out and got life so that they didn't kill him. This dude was a killer too, but he shows up in USP Lee. And Mark gets wind of who the dude is, that, you know, there was some sexual stuff going on in the case, and there were some rapes, and Mark and this other cat, dude's got life in Florida, they concoct this big plan. I was in the hole at the time, that they're going to stab this dude and get him off the yard. Because again, Mark's, trying to live under that image that he's the baddest dude on the compound. And really he wasn't. He was just a scared kid. Deep in his heart, he was just a scared kid. Trying to live a prison life. The shit he's seen in prison movies. The shit that ain't real. So what happens is they grab this dude from the back. Dude grabs the dude. He's got the knife. He stabs the dude. Somehow the dude gets the knife away from him. Dude takes the knife and starts stabbing the dude. The dude that put him in the chokehold. The one that's got life in Florida. They fall to the ground. He stabs the dude in the eye. Up here in the eye. Almost takes his eye out. They fall on the ground. The knife falls. What does Mark do? He's got to save his dude now. His dude's getting whooped. And he steps on the knife. And that was it. Gunshots. They shoot from the tower, warning shots. Mark hits the ground. All the tough guy stuff out the window again. He hits the ground, lays on the ground. They handcuff Mark, take him to the hole. And he sits in the hole for 9-10 months, and they decide whether or not they're going to send him to the SMU program or are they going to send him back to the ADX. I think he went to the SMU. Goes to the SMU, gets out of the SMU, and today he's sitting in Tucson, Arizona. He's sitting on a special needs yard where he's safe. And that's going to be it for Mark. Razor, concrete, and steel. That's it. That's his life. He's going to be eating slimy burgers every Wednesday. Uncooked chicken on Thursdays. Asking his family for money for the next few years. That's just how his life's going to be. Again, man. Ask yourself, look in the mirror. Do you want to be Mark Jordan? Or do you want to live your life? It's up to you, man. You're in the driver's seat. You decide where your life goes. Blood on the Razor Wire TV, where we bring it to you real, bring it to you raw. Until tomorrow, we're out.